Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Minister, for your contribution. I want to start with the big picture, and that is that when you say the IPCC report is based on the latest climate science and has observed unprecedented changes in the climate system, and I think we would all agree with that. And the climate actually suggests, and we heard evidence from Professor Kevin Anderson at our committee late last year, that what we really need is an average cut of 12% in emissions, not the 7% that's in our bill. So I think we need to listen to the science. And really, I met you at the COP23 in Bonn. I think the number of COPs says it all, because we're at COP26 now and things have never been worse on the planet in terms of the rate of greenhouse gas emissions and the overheating of the planet. And the evidence is there from the fires, the droughts, the famines, the sea levels rising, etc. So you and I met several NGOs about the issue of stopping the exploration for fossil fuels, and that was in the lead up to a bill you were preparing and one that I submitted, and now you've done that to stop issuing any more licenses, and that's very good. But isn't the problem here that the planet suffers from the top 100 multinational companies being responsible for over 70% of the emissions, and that really they're untouchable even by something like COP in Bonn or Paris or now coming up to Glasgow. So I'd like you to comment on that. When you talk about bringing it back home, and you say the most effective way to influence others is when our actions at home are consistent with our advocacy abroad. I want to bring to your attention, back in 2019, I asked at the Climate Action Committee for a comprehensive review of the SEAI grant scheme to ensure that it enables a maximum numbers of low and ordinary income households to undertake retrofitting of their homes and to pursue maximum energy efficiencies. And that would have helped ordinary people to reduce emissions. Now, I don't know about others here, but I have queues coming into my clinics on Mondays and Fridays of people who are turned down by the SEAI, people on low incomes, on medium incomes, who for reasons to do with their rules are turned down to get their attic lagged or their home retrofitted in any scale, because some form of retrofitting was done in the past, and the past could be 5-10 years ago, and we are leaving the poorest behind. If we want to transform the debate around climate science, surely these are the people we should be looking after. So I'm requesting again a complete review of the rules and regulations around the SEAI grant scheme and how they are doled out, and how they're blocking the poorest from being able to be energy efficient at home, because I believe that is what is actually happening. And I have plenty of cases I can bring to your attention if you wish to look at them. But I do think that if we are to do, as you say, lead the way at home and be consistent, that things like curbing the proliferation of data centres, banning LNGs, moving to free, frequent public transport, and most importantly, retrofitting people's homes so that they're not burning the level of carbon they're burning to stay warm through the winter, that if we made these moves, that would be consistent with what we're trying to do in Glasgow over the next couple of weeks. But I'm interested to hear your comments on my first question, and indeed the specifics on the second. It's not Schull or Goleen, but it is Ballyfermot and Crumlin, and people are suffering greatly from it.
Thank you, Deputy Smith. Minister.
They're just as important. Every home matters. Can I just go back first to what you said? I've also met and listened to Kevin Anderson, and he's, in my mind, a very eminent and very articulate and very compelling advocate for stronger climate action, and would not ignore at all for any moment the warnings and the analysis that he presents. It is very scientific, fact-based in my mind, and it deserves to be heeded. I think I remember meeting briefly at the Paris Climate Conference itself, and the reality is, in where we are in the world today, the Paris Climate Agreement, in my mind, is the legal construct within which we are best placed to try and achieve the protection he seeks. You can argue that it's not, things are not moving fast enough, or even that the targets need to be more ambitious, but I believe that moment when 200 countries came together to agree the structure, and included in that structure, the reason why Glasgow is important, included this 5-year review structure, which is what we're going into in Glasgow, and then a stocktake in 2023, it is our best chance of protecting the planet from runaway climate change. And one can differ in how exactly what is the path to achieve those climate objectives in the Paris Climate Agreement, but I believe it is the right legal structure and the right international legal structure for us to follow. To go back then to home and the improvement of people's homes, which is a very practical way of reducing emissions and improving health and addressing fuel poverty, which is increasingly an issue at the moment because fossil fuels are so volatile and so expensive. We will be doing a review and a whole relaunch, in effect, of the SEI grant system in a new national retrofitting scheme, which I hope to announce and deliver shortly. But it will build on what is very good work. In the Warmer Home Scheme, I think next year, was it in the budget we've just agreed last week, I think we agreed a total of 109 million, and that's funding where it's 100% targeted at people in low income, where there's really extensive report. And I know there's a backlog and there's a time delay, and people are frustrated that it takes so long or that they might not be able to, but that's partly because it's such a successful and welcome scheme. It's not on its own. I think in the budget we agreed something like 85 million euros for the retrofitting of social housing. And again, that needs to ramp up. It'll only upgrade to B2 or higher, I think about 2,500 houses, social council housing. But we've committed within our Climate Act that we will get to that 51% reduction by the end of this decade. And that will require 500,000 homes, as we agreed, I think, collectively in this very Oireachtas committee. So going back to what I was saying earlier on, learn by doing and changing and adapting, SEI will do that. We have something like €5 billion funding coming from the carbon tax to help pay for it. That's hugely significant and welcome. We have additional loan facilities now that will help lower the cost of those who are borrowing to pay for their home improvements, something like a halving of it. That's going to be significant. And we will increase the grants for others outside the warmer homes and the social housing scheme to make sure that some of the costs is covered by the state. So this area, I mean, the biggest constraint in this isn't budgetary finance, it's actually the workers to deliver the project. We'd need, I think, was it Patricia King from ICTU said we'll need something like 27,000 construction workers in this decade to move into this area. We all know that that's a real constraint at this present time. So it's getting the apprenticeships and getting the workers in place is the key constraint at the moment. And that is the first thing. If we get that, then we can continue to look at all the various schemes and how they might best be rolled out.
Thank you, Minister.